All right. Yo, what's up? My name's Patrouski, and my next order of business today is a big one, okay? I've seen a really common question going around in regards to temporary incubators, and I wanted to give my best response and thought process to it because it's probably one of the most importantly discussed things right now in PokeMMO. Everybody's just discussing temporary incubators. Thank you so much, Kyles. What's up? What's up? Perfect timing. I don't even know if that's crazy. Temporary incubators were a proposed update that we actually stopped as a community on this recent update because we thought it was so bad for the game. It was pay to win. It increased the speed and difficulty of shiny hunts by such a massive degree. It was problematic, okay? Now, I have a nice big write-up to answer this question, talk about a lot of things. So this is going to be a second monitor, just listen to me yap sort of video. If you're going to, if you don't want to hear it, type why you yapping Patrouski and click off the video. There you go. More power to you. Okay. A lot of people have been asking the question is, if temporary incubators are pay to win, why is everybody okay with donor status and shiny charm? And it is a good question. Okay. The difference is orders of magnitude and time saved. Okay. Shiny charm and donor status, respectively, save 10% off of your shunt, right? They increase your odds by 10%, okay? And even these, like, most shiny hunters don't love that these exist. Donor status has just been here forever. I don't love being able to credit card swipe for in-game benefits. I like, vanities, ocarinas, convenience stuff, totally fine. I don't love that this is here, but it's been here for so long, there's not really any way to go back on it, right? And then it's like an evil necessity sort of thing, necessary evil, right? But it's 10% increased chance of shinies, okay? Temporary incubators speed up your shiny hunt by almost 100%, and that's in comparison to permanent incubators. Comparison to prior to the update, incubators in general speed up eggs by 3 times, which you would never see in any other piece of content. Temporary incubators speed up your hunt by almost 100% because you're going from 8 permanent incubators and then adding 7 temporary ones, taking your total eggs hatched to 15 eggs per hatch cycle from the prior to update 5 and post permanent incubators 8, right? Now, many high-level shiny hunters don't even use donor status or shiny charm, right? It is not a requirement, and it's even debated on whether it's efficient or not for certain shiny hunts. You would almost never use shiny charm, for example, on any shiny hunt other than egg shunting, right? Temporary incubators will be a fucking requirement for egg hunting. There is no way around it. You will be wasting so much time if you aren't using temporary incubators that it would be faster to not shiny hunt until you can afford the temporary incubators and then use them. The order of magnitude and severity of how good something is very, very important to an argument, not just the thought process, although that is very important, right? It's the same way, like, oh, if you want to have a fun weekend, you have a few beers. You don't shoot up a hard drug, right? Like, oh, you want to have a fun weekend, let's have a few brewskis with the boys. You don't do hard drugs and it's a severity thing. Like, those two things are very, very, very different. Continuing on. This is all so far just talking about the pay to win argument against temporary incubators, which I do think is the weaker argument of the main 2 arguments being presented right now. And I do think that the conversation is being switched in terms of direction to be more focused on just what an insane buff to egg shunting this would be in one update, which literally no egg hunter wants. Even just permanent incubators being added is a 60% buff to egg shunting speeds from 5 eggs hatched per cycle to 8 eggs. Could you imagine if they made Elden Ring 60% easier in one patch? People would lose their fucking minds. If they made it so that, imagine if they made it so that leveling was 60% faster in classic WoW. People play these games because they are a challenge, because they are a grind. And sometimes I think the new generation of gamers has forgotten that it's okay for some people to not like things. The same way it is okay for some people to not like my content. I am never going to get everyone to like me. And in fact, if everyone did like me, that's probably a sign that I'm being disingenuous and not being my earnest self, wavering my opinions to the masses solely to be more liked. It is not only okay for people to not play PokeMMO because of the shiny rate and grinds, but it is a good thing. It builds a tighter and stronger connection to the community that does connect with that part of the game. And if they do want to cater certain content towards a more casual audience, I say go for it, but maybe do it with new things like storyline prestiges or an in-game Nuzlocke mode or dungeons, etc. Why would you take something that hardcore players love and try to appeal it to a type of player that don't play that part of the game? It just makes no sense. People shiny hunt in PokeMMO because it's difficult. If you don't want high shiny rates, I think that's awesome and totally valid. Neither way is better or worse objectively. They are just different for different players and create different experiences. But if you like high rates, you can just go play one of the dozens of Pokemon games with higher shiny rates. PokeMMO is one of the few shiny hunting games where they always seem to care about shiny hunting integrity and difficulty. All of this doesn't even factor in the effect on the Ditto market, which would largely be a bad thing in my opinion. If you severely lower the time an egg shunt takes, plus raise the amount of eggs you can hatch at once, this is going to cause Dittos to be consumed much, much more quickly. This is bad for many reasons. Number one, even this makes the hunt more pay to win, because it's going to become more about the Pokeyen versus the length of the hunt itself, which was not the case before. Yes, getting 150 mil or so before was daunting, but that was the much easier and faster part of the hunt, was making the Pokeyen. The difficulty was egg hunting, hatching the eggs, the grind of all that, right? That was the difficult part. The second reason is that this is going to severely increase the base cost of Dittos on the GTL and in Ditto boxes. Not good IV Dittos, which is really sad to me because the community has been talking about the devaluation of Pokemon for over a year now. Some people saw it coming 2 years ago. Last year, back in like August, September, so about a year ago, I predicted that they would nerf alphas in the upcoming event season, and then they didn't, and I was really shocked because it's so clear to me that the economy needs it. Maybe I'm missing something, maybe there's a deeper discussion, but something has to happen where good IV Pokemon are worth nothing. Not nothing, that's hyperbolic, but worth way less than they should be and way less than a standardized value, and they're lower than the price of the items. That's how you tell, right? So what you want to look at is the way people, you know, how do you say they're cheap? It's just perspective. Let me show you why things are too cheap, okay? When a 1x31 Ditto, right, is 6,000 Pokeyen, 1x31 attack, right? Okay, then 1x31 speed, let's say Gibble, right, is 26k. So some Pokemon still have value in those stats, right? But let's say, so Ditto is 6k, Gibble's 26k. So that's, what is that, 32k, and then you need to buy 2 braces. So that's 52k is what it should cost to get a 2x31 Gibble, right? If it's not, now what you want is the time put in. If I check this price, Gibbles should be like 56k, but they're less than that. This is how you know the market is fucked. When Pokemon with good IVs are worth less than the item value it would take to breed them, right? This would be like if rune plate bodies, okay, in old school RuneScape, you have something called the high alchemy value, right? The breeding braces and items are essentially our high alt value, right? If rune plate bodies were 20k, you'd be like, what the fuck? How is that possible? Because then high alchemy is so valuable, so good, right? Because you can't really do that. But in PokeMMO, good Pokemon are becoming worth less than their high alt value. We don't have that same system in PokeMMO. Good IV Pokemon are getting cheaper and cheaper to a dangerous degree. They're cheap. They're like, it's easier to catch alphas every so often than ever to breed up or create good IV mons. Okay. Okay. Back to the script. When alphas were added, people said to me in a stream back in 2023, isn't this going to affect the 2x31 Pokemon market in a negative way? And I replied, yeah, it will surely affect it, but how much and how fast? I'm sure that when that happens, when that problem becomes a problem, the devs will step in. And I think in 2023, people were in panic mode for no reason. And then in 2024, people were concerned for a good reason. They were, lightly concerned, like, okay, the market's getting a little rough. And now in 2025, people are in panic mode for a good reason. It's taken so much time, but the market has been devalued over and over again for 2 years, and nothing has been done to adjust it. 1x31 IV Dittos are usually worth about the same thing as a Shido right now. Catching Pokemon for profit is nearly dead as a money-making method, and money-making in PokeMMO is actually easier and more consistent than ever, with gym reruns, berry farming, flipping, E4 reruns, etc. Players have gotten a lot better at making Pokeyen and PokeMMO, which is awesome. But money making has also gotten less diverse and more monotonous than it was before. So many money making methods just aren't viable anymore. Instead of farming Pidgeys on Route 1 as a new player for male flying Eggrootmons with 1x31s to sell them for 7 to 10k, you just skip that. You have to complete as many regions as possible and just rush to a gym rerun team as quick as possible to make any sort of real Pokeyen. Gym rerunning has become one of the only real viable ways for the average player in PokeMMO. And I'm okay with gym reruns being the best method for the average player, but they don't need to be the only method people do. It burns people out really hard. This is becoming a different ramble, though. I'm kind of getting off into the money stuff, but temporary incubators also contribute to player economy issues, which is why it's important to bring up. Hopefully this update and conversation about temporary incubators causes more conversation to happen, essentially. This is the conversation that's happening at lots of high levels in PokeMMO, and also understand that things are still changing very quickly and we are adapting both sides of the argument in live time. I think everybody is actively trying to figure out what is the best thing, the best position for the future of PokeMMO. So I appreciate kindness, patience, and like all sorts of, charitability when it comes to these discussions. We have about 25 days or so, about 3 weeks until temporary incubators are going to be pushed as a permanent update once again in PokeMMO. And I think it's up to us as a community to keep that in the back of our mind. Enjoy the update now. I don't want the temporary incubator planning and stuff to overshadow what an amazing update this was without temporary incubators. I take issue with permanent incubators still. 8 of them versus like 6 is ridiculous to me. Once again, a 60% increase is just wild. I'm hoping that we as a community can come together in another month or so, but it's okay to appreciate the positives, have fun. I'm loving the in-game encounter counter. I'm loving the GTL changes. There's a lot of positives in this update, so I do want to talk about that. So hopefully we can just keep enjoying PokeMMO, but keep the incubator stuff in the back of our mind and participate in that discussion if you want to. I appreciate anybody leaving questions and comments and genuine, like, trying to come to an understanding, not just like, oh, I'm just asking questions and then never actually solving them for yourself, right? I think the question of, if temporary incubators are paid to win, why is everybody okay with winner status and shiny charm is a good question, but hopefully I've done adequately to answer that today. If you don't think I have, let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching this quick little snippet. Like the video if you enjoy it, dislike if not, subscribe, follow on Twitch, etc. So you guys know the drill. Have a great day, and let's enjoy PokeMMO together.